Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever just stared into your fridge or maybe gazed out your living room window and suddenly figured out the secrets of the universe? Yeah, probably not, right? But today we're going to see how doing exactly that can radically change the way you think and interact with the entire world around you.
So, what on earth can a rotting eggplant, a bag of lumpy flour, and some stubborn iron mung beans possibly teach us? Well, our source material today reveals that you don't actually need lofty ancient texts or remote mountain temples to find enlightenment. Nope, your refrigerator and your windowsill, they're already speaking to you. We're unpacking a really fascinating text called Revelations from Daily Life, which argues that profound, life-altering wisdom is sitting right there on your kitchen counter, just waiting to be noticed.
The author calls this practice reading the book without words. Basically, the idea is that absolutely everything around us, all these ordinary physical things changing every day, are actually messages. If we just know how to really listen and observe, we are actively talking to the greatest creator right in our daily life. It's this deeply practical, highly accessible kind of Zen that requires nothing more than your own active attention.
Section 1. Cultivating the Inner Mind. Maintenance of the Self. Okay, picture this. It's a situation a lot of us know all too well. You leave a bag of flour in the fridge, but maybe not in the actual freezer. After a year in that damp, unventilated environment, what happens? The flour forms into these hard, completely inedible lumps. It just rots and deteriorates simply because it was sitting there in the wrong conditions. Now, here is the wild revelation derived from that ruined baking ingredient. That flour is exactly like your mind. The text points out that if you don't actively bring in fresh air, ventilate your thoughts, your thinking becomes rigid. It literally forms lumps. You become stubborn and totally set in your ways. To keep your mind fresh and actually useful, you've got to constantly expose it to new, ventilated ideas, and maybe even change up your environment every now and then.
Taking this a step further, the author points out a kind of gross but totally undeniable reality of nature. Think about it. If you don't take a bath or change your clothes for an entire month, lice will simply appear. As long as the conditions are right, parasitic bugs and viruses are going to find those conditions, and they will thrive in them.
And this brings up a massive, absolutely crucial point about our consciousness. Just like a lack of physical hygiene breeds actual physical parasites, a lack of mental hygiene breeds parasitic thoughts in our minds. The author even connects this to global events, pointing out how the coronavirus forced humanity to think and live totally differently. Refusing to adopt new ideas or adapt to new ways of living, that just makes us vulnerable hosts for toxic mental viruses.
So how do you protect this freshly ventilated, clean mind of yours? Well, think about double-paned windows. In freezing winters, these windows use a remarkably simple trick, just an empty, insulating layer of air tucked between two panes of glass. And that simple, empty space successfully blocks out the bitter, freezing cold from getting into the house.
The big takeaway here is that worries are cold. They freeze our progress, they chill our spirit. But by creating an insulating layer of selflessness, this intentional emptiness, a lot like the air between those window panes, we can actually protect our inner peace from the freezing anxieties of the outside world. I mean, it's an incredible mental shield inspired entirely by basic home architecture.
Section 2. Accepting human nature. You can't soften iron beans.
If you've ever boiled mung beans, you probably know the absolute frustration of running into iron beans. They look totally normal. Their shapes, their colors, identical to the rest. But no matter how much heat you apply, no matter how long you let them simmer on the stove, they simply refuse to soften. In fact, the bizarre reality is, the more you cook them, the harder they become.
What this is getting at is a really fascinating taxonomy of humanity. Just like those stubborn iron beans, the author suggests that within any group of people, there will always be certain individuals, like the saints of the world, or on the flip side, the rogue thieves, who are just born a very specific way. You can apply all the warmth, all the pressure, all the effort you want, but they are absolutely not going to change their core nature. You just kind of have to accept them for the iron beans they are.
To really drive home these drastic variations in human nature, the text sets up a brilliant comparison using common houseplants. On one hand, you have a fragile red leaf tree from Vancouver. It got blown over by the wind for just a few hours, and even though someone carefully picked it up and replanted it, it just died shortly after. But on the other hand, a crab cactus got violently knocked right off a table. Its soil spilled everywhere. It was hurriedly scooped back into the pot, and amazingly, not only did it survive, it actually came into full bloom just a few days later. No way, right?
Well, people react to offenses exactly like these plants. If you accidentally offend a red leaf tree kind of person, the relationship might just wither and die permanently, no matter how hard you try to fix it. But if you stumble and offend a crab cactus person, they brush it off, they bounce right back, and your relationship might even bloom from that shared experience. It's a powerful reminder that we really must accept the inherent fragility or resilience of the people around us, instead of just expecting everyone to react the exact same way.
Section 3. The Art of Relationships, Moderation and Appreciation.
Let's head back to the kitchen for a second. The author points out this super mundane frustration: eggplants. If you put an eggplant in the cold fridge, somewhere between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius, the flesh turns black, it freezes, and it tastes incredibly stale. But if you leave it out on the counter at room temperature, it rots completely in just a few days. It feels almost impossible to keep this vegetable happy.
The profound lesson hiding in that finicky vegetable is all about extremes. You literally cannot subject certain people to extremes of temperature. A healthy relationship often demands a highly moderated environment. It has to be totally free from the freezing cold of hate, but equally free from the suffocating, intense heat of excessive love and attention. Just like the eggplant, a lot of relationships only thrive when you take a step back and maintain a balanced climate.
Now, totally opposite to that high-maintenance eggplant, think about a simple water bamboo. The author describes one sitting in a glass vase, given absolutely zero nutrient fertilizer, and with only occasional and honestly sometimes entirely forgotten water changes. Yet, this plant grew beautifully and steadily for 2 straight years. The beautiful takeaway here is that we should actively cherish the water bamboo people in our lives. You know the ones. They're the most content, sincere friends who don't demand constant nurturing or intense emotional labor. You don't need these complex, high-maintenance dynamics with them. They maintain an intimate, strong bond with just a simple, occasional smile or a friendly hello. They give so much back for so little effort.
Section 4. Accumulating Good Merits. The Cosmic Economy.
The text shares this really compelling story. A neighbor needed a place to stay after moving out of his old house. The author opened his doors, enthusiastically telling this neighbor he could stay for the entire winter, completely rent-free, and to treat the home as his own. The author then poses this really fascinating question to us. Was I being extraordinarily generous?
Well, the surprising answer is, actually, no. He wasn't being overly generous at all. See, the neighbor had effectively executed this brilliant long-term strategy. Every single winter for the past several years, this neighbor had driven his snowplow to shovel the author's snow, entirely for free. He never asked for a dime. By doing this over and over, he built up an undeniable cosmic credit. So when it finally came time to ask for a massive favor, he was instantly and warmly welcomed.
And that perfectly captures this concept of accumulating merit. The universe, much like a neighbor's house, or even heaven itself, according to the text, operates on this exact economy. It only opens its doors to you if you've put good work and helpfulness out into the world in advance. You can't just expect the door to swing open if your account is empty, right? You have to put in those deposits of kindness first.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I've got a challenge for you. Take a look around your own home today. Look at your own lumpy flower, your resilient houseplants, your double-paned windows. Stop seeing them as just stuff and start reading the book without words. Ask yourself, what profound secrets is the universe trying to teach you right now, hidden right there in plain sight? Keep observing, keep learning, and pay attention to what your daily life is whispering to you.